I know it's hard, I know it's complicated, but I promised you I've been waiting here forever. I had a much to say, but you're not hear me. No, we're invincible, like fire in the snow. Trust me when I say you are my beautiful world, and I'm feeling it all. We should make an effort. It's true you're so far away, and it's true you don't feel the same. But if you take my hand, we can try and go back. Start it from scratch. I won't let you go. No, I can't let you go. 'Cause you're my gravity, and I will never leave. I won't let you go. No, baby, I will not. Because I still believe. You're my gravity. You will never be what I expected. Different frequencies, that's why we ain't connected. You know I will make it through. I got nothing to lose but you. It's true you're so far away, and it's true I can feel the same. It's another day, you know you want me to stay, but I go my way. I won't let you go. No, I can't let you go. 'Cause you're my gravity, and I will never leave. I won't let you go. No, baby, I will not. Because I still believe. You're my gravity. You're my gravity. You're calling on my name, but the echo numbs your pain. Sorry, but more than just a shadow, I'm more than just a man. You don't care how I feel, you don't know how I feel. No, you don't know how. I wash away the sorrow till my heart can beat again. You're my gravity. No, you're my gravity. I will let you go. The only thing that I know, you were my gravity, but now I have to leave. I will let you go. What do you think that I want? What do you think that I want? I know how to breathe. It's my gravity. 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 I know it's hard, I know it's complicated, but I promised you I've been waiting here forever. I had a much to say, but you're not hear me. No, we're invincible, like fire in the snow. Trust me when I say you are my beautiful world, and I'm feeling it all. We should make an effort. It's true you're so far away, and it's true you don't feel the same. But if you take my hand, we can try and go back. Start it from scratch. I won't let you go. No, I can't let you go. 'Cause you're my gravity, and I will never leave. I won't let you go. No, baby, I will not.
Warning: the Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern, and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity.
Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
Talking about my generation.
Good afternoon, race fans, and welcome here as we get ourselves ready for the 23rd race of the second season of the NNSCRA Duracell Ultra Lite Series. We are deep in the heart of the playoffs here. First time that the playoffs have ever been implemented in this series, and here today we are going to have our first elimination race. Our original 10 drivers will soon be whittled down to 7 remaining in preparation for our final 4 races of the season. Still one more round to come before we establish our final 4. One driver, we've documented this ever since Road America, is already locked into the next round, but 6 spots still remain available for the remaining drivers to either point or maybe here this afternoon another one to win their way into the round of 7. Colin Grace is that driver that is safe no matter what happens here at the Monster Mile. He knows he is moving on. Everybody else, a lot of question marks, and there are a couple of drivers that we'll be talking about that are borderline must win. They certainly are going to have to finish inside of the top 5, top 10, somewhere in that region. We need to remember as well, there are 30 drivers going to take the green flag here in this one, so not nearly as many points on the table here in the Lights race as there will be tomorrow in the Cup race. But as I mentioned, we're at the Monster Mile. This is Dover Speedway. This racetrack is very unique in so many ways. It's a mile in length. A lot of people say it races like a short track, but the speeds you can carry here are quite deceptive. Also, this racetrack is known for being abrasive on the tires because of its concrete surface. And of course, we also call it the Monster Mile. That's because Miles the Monster, the if you will, the, what's the word I'm trying to look for here? The mascot. That's what I was looking for. I was thinking of another word and I knew that wasn't it. The mascot of this racetrack, it will eat you up. And this racetrack can be very hungry at times. I've also documented this back during our qualifying sessions as well. This is maybe one of the top 5 toughest pit roads to get onto. And if we end up seeing green flag pit stops during the course of this event, they could be pivotal into especially our remaining playoff contenders, whether you're moving on or may be eliminated. This weekend, the females have showed up. The ladies have taken over at the Monster Mile, as here in the Light Series, they are going to sweep the front row. It is Sarah Fogelman capturing her very first career pole position here in the Duracell Ultra Light Series, and alongside of her, former winner on the season back at Watkins Glen, Autumn Brooks. Neither of those drivers obviously battling for a playoff spot here, battling for the championship, so they can go all out. And you know, this has been the big question mark that we're going to have answered here today and in preparation for tomorrow's Cup Series race. It looked like in qualifying on both the Lights and the Cup Series side, it looked like passing is possible. Maybe not as easy to pass as it is at a track that's wider, like say a Michigan or an Auto Club, or maybe even some of our mile-and-a-half racetracks, but it looks like it is possible. And in the past, this racetrack has been known to be one where track position is key. You start at the front, there's a good chance you can maintain that track position and finish up at the front. Can we see drivers, specifically playoff contenders who qualified mid-pack to rear of the field, Is there a way for them to work their way to the front? We'll have to wait and find out. 120 laps await us here today. Let's go down trackside and get those most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines!
Right side of your screen, you'll see your 30 driver starting lineup for this afternoon's race. Your playoff contenders, all 10 of them highlighted in yellow. We'll see if we can give you an overlook of the playoffs here before we go green. So Colin Grace is already locked in. We're going to be talking a lot about 7th in the standings here today, as that's the cutoff line. Aubrey Powell is 2nd in the standings, coming into this one a total of, trying to do the quick math in my head here, 24 points ahead of the cut line. 18 points ahead of the cut line in 3rd is Cam Wright Jr. Juan Garcia is 12 points ahead of the cut line in 4th. Cody Majorek, who's going to start the highest of the playoff drivers, in 3rd. He is a total of 11 points ahead of the cut line. And Eli Bright is currently a total of 7 points ahead of the cut line in 6th. Roberto Crown Jr. is that cut line driver right now, 7th in the standings. 1 point back in 8th is Skylar Taylor. A total of 21 points back in 9th is Kyle Langland. And Jordan Anderson, almost must-win situation here today. He is 23 points back in 10th. We'll keep tabs on all those 10 drivers during the course of this race, but there's another 20 drivers that want to win here at Dover as we are green at the Monster Mile. Sarah Fogelman pulls away with the early advantage. Autumn Brooks swung around the outside to take 2nd and now crosses to the inside, looking for the race lead here through 3 and 4. Be dead even here as Fogelman draws back. I believe Autumn Brooks did lead the lap, and scoring does back that up. Cody Majorek now going to move into 2nd place. Last season we didn't run a whole lot of racetracks that the Lights drivers have come back to here in Season 2. Dover actually was one of them, though. Was, I believe, the 9th race of the season last year, and David Dixon was the winner of this event 1 season ago. He's now moved into the 4th spot, so keep an eye on that DHL Chevrolet out of Southern Cross Racing as he looks to go back-to-back here at this mile racetrack. David 12th in the point standings. That's 2nd highest of the drivers not battling for the championship, as Sarah Fogelman trying to get to the inside of Cody Majorek, not going to be able to do so right there. Majorek will hang on to the spot, pulls down in front of the 5-Hour Energy Toyota Supra. With David Dixon looking on, Majorek had a great run there on the top side out of 2. Now he'll cross to the bottom on Autumn Brooks, very similar to what Autumn did on Sarah Fogelman back on that first lap. And Majorek, a valuable lap led there. That's going to be an important bonus point for the 70. May not seem like much, but when it comes to the playoffs, bonus points for laps led, most laps led, they are really crucial. As now Sarah Fogelman, who has yet to lead a lap here since starting on the pole, trying to get to the front here where she started from, and not going to be able to get that run here off of 4. We're stacked up about 4th place on back. David Dixon looks in his rearview mirror. There's his teammate, Cam Wright Jr., multi-time winner on the season, as they're freight training Autumn Brooks on that outside line. Right behind them is a couple of the Bishop Family Racing Dark Horse Mustangs. RJ Bishop, team owner in the All-Star car, the 16. Right behind him is teammate Mike Tellier, who's still looking for his first win on the season after he's run full-time in Season 2. Behind him, Jordan Anderson. This is the driver that's got pretty much all the pressure on him coming into this race. Needs to show up and show out, as he is, as we mentioned before we went green, 23 points below the 7th in the standings cut line. As borderline must win for the driver out of Joanna Atwood Motorsports. And we talked about this, I think it was earlier this afternoon at the conclusion of the Cup Series qualifying, the fact that Joanna Howard Motorsports has some pretty good numbers here, including this being the venue where Quentin Moore got his first career win. So maybe the information they have of this racetrack can translate over to the 70 and the 89 here in the Lite Series race. And right now, both of them running well, with Anderson right now in 8th and Cody Majorek currently out in clean air, enjoying the race lead. Majorek got his first career win back down the home stretch of the regular season at Iowa, locking himself up a spot in the playoffs. And right now enjoys, what is that, about 4.5, 5 car lengths back to second place, Sarah Fogelman, who appears to maybe be a little bit slower than some of the other drivers behind her, but she does have the track position, though, which is wadding up David Dixon, Autumn Brooks, and others. 10 laps completed here at Dover, 110 still left to go. Let's look towards the rear of the field of some of our playoff drivers that could be in trouble. And right now it looks like Roberto Crown Jr. is the furthest back of our playoff contenders, 25th place last time by. And remember, he came into this race the cut line driver. Our regular season champion lost 3 spots at the conclusion of Nashville Superspeedway last week, dropped from 4th down to 7th, and as we mentioned, he is only 1 point to the good ahead of Skylar Taylor, who is 8th in standings, and right now, last time by, Skylar was scored in 12th. This is going to be tomorrow afternoon, the first race of the round of 12, and we do have some of our Cup drivers down here turning some laps, including Nick Gunther, who was the last driver to transfer last week in the elimination race at Nashville Superspeedway, got 12th position. So trying to get a little bit of extra trek time here, this being one of the couple of home tracks for Nick Gunther, who's up in the northeastern United States around the Philadelphia area. Pocono and Dover, a couple of his home tracks. Right now, though, running in the 24th position, not all that great, and Kyle Langland is just inside of the top 20 right now in the 19th spot. Remember, he was another of the drivers that was below the cut line coming into this race. He was 21 points below the cut line, and this is not looking promising, at least right now, for him, as he was another driver that was kind of borderline needing to win this race to be able to advance. Skylar Taylor is running ahead of Roberto Crown Jr., though he is currently in the 17th position now. Last time we checked, he was 12th, so he's gotten freight trained on that outside line, going backwards, trying to find a space back on the inside. Aubrey Powell, second in points coming into this one, gained 3 spots after Nashville Superspeedway, 13th right now, trying to get both of the Haas Racing entries into the next round of the playoffs. Colin Grace has already advanced with his victory back at Road America, and right now running inside the top 10, though may start fading back a bit here, as has been kicked up to that outside line and starting to get freight trained there. Jordan Anderson trying to pick up a spot. There's Eli Bright. Eli's been very impressive here in this first round of the playoffs because he and Kyle Langland were the 2 drivers that got into the playoffs through points, did not get in through victories, and both are still chasing their first win of the season still. Eli Bright right now 6th in points, 13 points to the good, and with the struggles we saw there with Skylar Taylor and Roberto Crown Jr., looking like he's in pretty good position right now to be able to point his way into the next round. Looks like they finally have been able to move the 11 of Sarah Fogelman up out of the way. David Dixon, Autumn Brooks going to make their way on by for 2nd and 3rd. Now we'll see if David Dixon will be able to close up here on the almost full second gap that Cody Majorek had. It was about a little more than 9/10 of a second the last time by. Let's see if it even closes up here, maybe potentially on this lap. Oh yeah, it had to have. I mean, look at how quickly David Dixon is reeling Majorek in. He's going to maybe look to the outside on the 70, leaves the door open for Autumn Brooks to look low. Shuts the door there. And this is where, now about 19, 20 laps into the run, this is where we start to see those that have saved tire and those who have not. The fact they were able to close up on Cody Majorek so quickly says to me he used up a lot of tire trying to build a gap when they were kind of wadded up behind Sarah Fogelman. He had a good run there out of turn 2, though. Opened up some daylight again back to David Dixon. Of course, aero is going to come into play as well. Dirty air. Especially when you're coming off of the corners there. Turn 4. Car gets really, really tight. You try to get back to the throttle and you have to wait, you have to wait, you have to wait on it. Or else if you don't, you're going to clobber the wall with the right side. Well, this racetrack, a lot of uniqueness about it. Another thing about this racetrack is the elevation changes. And people are probably thinking, well, what in the world are you talking about there? As you go down here into turn 1, the car kind of dips down. It valleys into the corner. And then as you come off of turn 2, it rises up onto the banking here on the back straightaway. Does the same thing here in 3. It dips down into the banking, and then when you come around off of 4, the car rises up again. I don't know if we can give you a good visual of it, but let's go on board with David Dixon and see if you can visibly see exactly what I'm talking about as he's trying to hunt down Cody Majorek here for the race lead. Well, the battle is now for second place as you saw Autumn Brooks take the peek to the inside of David Dixon. Autumn Brooks looking for her second win on the season off the heels of her first career win at the road course of Watkins Glen. It's like David Dixon's going to get freight train now as his teammate Cam Wright Jr. looks to the inside. 3 wide now for 4th place. Bishop now on the left rear quarter panel of Jordan Anderson, who shoots up the middle. Looks like he'll clear Bishop by the time they get to turn 1, pulls back into that inside line. He'll clear the David Dixon machine. Bishop will now look to do the same. There's a whole host of others all lined up to take advantage of that 45 being trapped on the top. As now we're going to have a couple of drivers also get moved up to that top line there. Autumn Brooks and Jordan Anderson. It looked more, I don't know about Autumn Brooks. I think she had a move made on her there by Cam Wright Jr. last time off of turn 2. It almost looked like Jordan Anderson moved up there of his own accord. And from what we have seen so far here in this race, you want to be hugging that inside line as much as possible. The longer way around the racetrack is just that. The longer way around, and you're going to lose positions. The driver's trying to take advantage. I mean, maybe a couple of times we've seen, you see Autumn Brooks get a run there off of 4. You've seen drivers be able to get enough of a run off the corner to keep that inside line at bay, which Autumn is going to do right there against Colin Grace. But it is very rare. I mean, you can see David Dixon has yet to be able to do that as he continues to free fall back through the top 10. A couple of similarly colored cars right here. Some orange, a little bit of red, a little bit of white. The Flamin' Hot Cheetos Chevrolet against the Family Dollar Dark Horse Mustang. This is RJ's 6th race here in the Lite Series this season. His previous 5 starts, he's finished inside of the top 10 4 times and inside of the top 5 3 times. He's actually in his starts got an average finishing position of 8.8. And almost pulled off a couple of victories here this season. We documented about the fact that Eric Monaco has got the accolade, if you will, of being the first driver to win both a Lights race and a Cup race in his career. But that was first starting out as a Light Series driver, and then obviously this season moving up to the Cup Series. We have yet to have a driver that was established already in the Cup Series and come down here to the Light Series, win a Cup Series race first, and then a Light Series race. Well, playoff 10 contenders, they definitely know that this is an elimination race. As looking at the running order right now, we currently have 4 of them up here inside of the top 6, with Majorek and Cam Wright Jr. first and second, Jordan Anderson right now in 5th, and Aubrey Powell in the 8th position. We've actually got a 5th one up here, but maybe not as important in terms of the playoffs, and that is Colin Grace. Now, the thing here for Colin Grace, though, that is important to note, when we had the elimination race last week for the Cup Series at Nashville Superspeedway, James Qualls picked up his 3rd win of the season and his first win there of the playoffs. Why was that important for him? Well, we end up having, at the end of the regular season, drivers that have won, they get 5 bonus points for each victory they have in that first round of the playoffs. Those bonus points do not carry on from the first round to the second round. However, if you manage to win during that first round, any victory you have, those 5 bonus points do actually carry over into the second round. That's why heading into tomorrow afternoon's Cup Series race here from Dover, James Qualls is the current points leader, 5 points over the rest of the 11 drivers that also advanced. For Colin Grace right now, having that victory back at Road America, right now he would be at the top of the point standings when we get to our next points paying race at Arizona in the round of 7. If Colin is able to pick up another victory here in this round of 10, guess what? That's 10 bonus points he carries into the next round of the playoffs. So do not think just because they've already advanced that Colin Grace and that 27 team are not still looking for checkered flags. As our first lead change here since the very early going of this race, RJ Bishop just got around Cody Majorek, and now he's out in clean air. That's going to mark only our second lead change of the afternoon, as Autumn Brooks led the first 3 laps. The last 32 were led by Cody Majorek, and now RJ Bishop takes a turn out in front, and he may have some company here very shortly in the form of Cam Wright Jr., who is looking for his 3rd win on the season. So far this season, we've had 4 drivers go to victory lane multiple times. Correction, 5 drivers, including Colin Grace, Cam Wright Jr., Juan Garcia, Roberto Crown Jr., and most recently Nathan Stapleton. So Cam Wright Jr. looking to be the first 3-time winner here in the Light Series. We're also still awaiting when exactly fuel is going to come into question. Tires have already worn down. That's a no-brainer. We can definitely see that the pace has slowed. For most of these drivers now, they're running about a 1.5 seconds slower than what they ran on the opening laps when they had fresh Goodyears underneath them. So I think they're more the drivers screaming for tires than they are for fuel, but they want to try and stretch these tires as far as they possibly can. Make as few trips to pit road as possible, especially if we continue to trend green as we have done since the start of this race. A third of the way through this one right now. If we're looking at a 2-stop race, you might want to start considering coming to pit road right about now. But if you're able to get it to around lap 60, then maybe we're looking at a 1-stop race. We have to wait and see, though. And this, of course, will give us an idea of what to expect for tomorrow afternoon's Cup Series race as well, as we've now moved over to the CTS physics on both sides. Another driver that's been quietly up here in the top 10 for the last 20-25 laps or so is Brody Kupski out of Adrenaline Motorsports. Right now running in the 6th position. Great run out of that 41, and you know, it's mentioned about that there's drivers that are looking to go to victory lane that are playoff contenders. There's drivers that are looking to go back to victory lane here that are not playoff contenders. How about drivers that are trying to just go to victory lane for the first time this season overall? Kupski's one of those drivers. 21st in the points coming to this one. Still has a 0 in the win column. There's still 5 races, including here this afternoon, left here in this season. And there are a number of drivers that are still looking for that first win of the season, for many of them first win of their Lite Series career. So do not count these guys out. See a couple of teammates back there out of Garage 55, the similarly flag-draped Mazdas of Ralph Mason in the 66, John Galligan in the 62. Mike Tellier back there in the 17. Former Cup Series winner, looking for his first win here in Lights. There's a lot of candidates there. There's a former Cup Series champion in Chris Dollerton. A lot of drivers still looking for that first victory here in the Lite Series. Top 3 have all broken away, and Bishop is gone. I mean, this is, looking right now, this is about 2.4 seconds he's got over Cam Wright Jr., and this says he was saving his tires a bunch. And once he got out in clean air, he is putting what grip he has to good use. He has opened up a huge gap back to Cam Wright Jr., who in turn has another 8 car lengths back to Colin Grace, but he's going to give that up as here comes Cam Wright Jr. to pit road. Autumn Brooks is in. Cody Majorek also hitting pit lane here after leading the most laps so far. So green flag pit stops begin around lap 45. So this is indeed going to be a 2-stop race, and these drivers are going to take advantage of the fresh tires here on the outlap. Skylar Taylor is also in. It's like David Dixon, former winner at this racetrack, coming in this time. Jordan Anderson follows him. Chris Dollerton, Mike Tellier. I see Eli Bright back there. Pole sitter Sari Fogelman. There's last week's winner, Nathan Stapleton. Another of our playoff drivers, 2-time winner Juan Garcia is in this time. And here comes the race leader, RJ Bishop. Look at how gingerly he brings it down there to the commitment line. Looks like Aubrey Powell going to stay out and lead a lap. So that'll be a valuable bonus point for her. Someone else stayed out right behind her as well. Oh, it's Brody Kupski. So these drivers, they're giving up time on the beginning portion of this next run to hope that they have fresher tires towards the latter portion of the run. Kind of like what we saw RJ Bishop do there after he got the race lead. I believe Kat Batson also stayed out. And as this trio now all hit pit lane, this should complete the cycle. Kat Batson seemed pretty aggressive there on pit road entry. So closing up a little bit of time maybe there on the rest of the competition. There's Roberto Crown Jr. just now leaving. Same for Kyle Langland. Hoping that they can improve their running order from where they were before this pit stop cycle began. Cam Wright Jr. coming around here. Remember, he's trying to leapfrog RJ Bishop as he pitted a couple of laps sooner than the 16. Let's see where RJ cycles around to. Did Cam Wright Jr. close up at all? And it does not look like it. I think RJ is still going to get out with the race lead once this cycles. What the gap will be, I'm not sure. It was about 2.4 seconds when the pit stops began. We'll see if it increases or decreases here once everybody cycles and these tires are brought back up to temperature. But it looks like visibly the gap may have actually opened. Autumn Brooks is going to leapfrog Colin Grace, though, so move her up to 3rd and Grace back to 4th position. So the leapfrog with the short pitting, the undercut worked for the outside pole sitter. And it looks like Chris Dollerton may also have gained quite a number of spots here on this pit stop cycle, as he's now in 6th position, just behind David Dixon, just ahead of Cody Majorek. Looks like RJ Bishop last time by, gap was 3.1 seconds back to Cam Wright Jr. But I did notice as well, lap times were much faster for the 95. That time by, I believe he gained about 0.3 of a second, a 25.496 to RJ's 7.40. And Autumn Brooks faster than the both of them. She just ran her fastest lap of the race right there with a 25.2 2:69. That time by, Cam Wright Jr. was 0.2 slower than RJ Bishop. So they're kind of trading back and forth in terms of lap times. Well, now that the pit stop cycles have completed, let's see who's looking good and who's not looking all that great as far as our playoff contenders are concerned. Cam Wright Jr. putting together another solid outing here. Been top 5 most of the day, currently holding down the 2nd position, in great spot to be able to advance into the next round of the postseason. Colin Grace, as we've documented, is already locked in, but still putting together another great run here as well. Colin Grace, even including the victory back at Road America, has accumulated the most points of any of our playoff drivers so far here in this first round. Cody Majorek looking good, 5th in the standings, 7th on the racetrack right now. Currently holds the bonus point for most laps led, 32 circuits out in front. RJ Bishop trying to eclipse that here as he's currently up to 16 laps led. Aubrey Powell, 2nd in points, looking strong as well to advance. 8th on the racetrack right now. And Jordan Anderson trying to do all he can. Last of the playoff drivers coming into this race. Was trying to fight his way up there to the front, but has now since faded back, currently in the 11th spot. Same deal for Kyle Langland, currently in the 14th position. Good positioning from where he started this race, but needs a lot more help here with the hole that both he and Jordan Anderson dug for themselves in the first 2 playoff races. And then you got to go a long ways back, outside the top 15 even, to find our next playoff driver. That's Eli Bright, currently in the 18th spot. Remember, Eli came into this race 6th in points. The good news, I guess, for him is he is ahead of some of the drivers that were close to him around that cut line. Roberto Crown Jr. and Skylar Taylor both running behind him currently on the racetrack, as Roberto Crown Jr. currently is in the 23rd position. He's got some spots up here that he can try and pick up, including Wes McCoy and Cole Coybe and Sarah Fogelman, Nathan Stapleton, but got to find a little bit more if you're that 18 car coming in here as the cut line driver. Skylar Taylor is 1 position behind him in the standings, 1 point back, and 1 position behind Roberto Crown Jr. on the racetrack right now. The 18 is 23rd, the 29 is 24th. He's got to get up there and bypass Roberto Crown Jr. to have a shot. And then right now, the furthest back of all of our playoff drivers is Juan Garcia. Now, Juan came into this race 22 points to the good, so he should relatively still be safe, especially with the fact that drivers like Skylar Taylor, Roberto Crown Jr., Eli Bright are running as far back as they are. However, he is in the 29th position, trying to take 28th here from Craig Batson, so may not exactly be the best run here at Dover for Juan Garcia. He should still be able to advance, however. One thing that we do have to remember, though, is a lot of drivers talk about momentum from one round of the playoffs to the next. If Juan Garcia and that team does not improve, may not be a whole heck of a lot of momentum for them heading into our next playoff race in the round of 7. Daniel Voiles right now is running last, still on the tail end of the lead lap, however. Remember, we'll see him tomorrow afternoon here on the Cup Series side, as he was one of the fortunate 12 that moved on to the next round of the playoffs. The scheduling is going to get a little bit disjointed for the Lights in the Cup Series drivers here in the next couple of weeks. Since the playoffs began, they've pretty much all been together. They're here obviously this weekend at Dover, Delaware, but next week it will be just the Cup Series drivers alone, as they will be having their I believe it is their first of 2, I believe, standalone races on the season, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong in that. I think there's 2 races what they're going to be standing alone. Next week, Light Series drivers by themselves will be at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. I want to say it's Atlanta and Dover are the 2 tracks. Let me double check on that here. Atlanta is one, and Boston's the other one that the Cup drivers will be at by themselves. Dover here, Arizona, Daytona, Rockingham, Michigan are the 5 tracks that Cup and Lights are at together. So next week it will be just the Cup Series drivers when they'll be at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and then they will have their next elimination race when they rejoin the Lite Series drivers when we're at the mile-and-a-half racetrack, Arizona Speedway. Then the Cup drivers will stand alone again at Boston, and then the final 3 races of the season will be doubleheaders: Daytona, Rockingham, and Michigan. Halfway home here at Dover, R.J. Bishop continues to hold a commanding lead of over 3.5 seconds, back to now a brewing battle for second place. Cam Wright Jr. trying to hold off Autumn Brooks. During the course of this run, though, R.J. Bishop eclipsed Cam Wright Jr.'s fastest lap of the race. R.J. now with a 24.888, equating to about 145.120 miles per hour. He is also about 5 laps away from getting the bonus point for most laps led. Well, put it this way, taking the bonus point away from Cody Majork for most laps led. R.J. Bishop, of course, does not run for points here in the Lite Series. As David Dixon trying to hold off Colin Grace, that's for the 4th position. This battle going on almost 7 seconds behind the race leader. And as we continue to kind of look at other drivers that benefited from this Cycle Green Flag pit stops, Chris Dollerton, as we mentioned, was one of them. You can also add Ralph Mason and Sean Galligan into that conversation. And maybe Kyle Langland. Langland's now up to 11th place and trying the outside here on Galligan through 3 and 4. Can he make that work? He might be able to. Oh, wow, Galligan sent it in there on Cody Majork, though, and now he'll pick up that position off of turn 2. Chris Dollerton looking low on Ralph Mason. Mason just picked up the spot from Dollerton. Dollerton crosses him back over, and he'll get back to the 6th position. So Cam Wright Jr. we saw kind of be the first driver to dive to pit lane from then 2nd place to try the undercut strategy. It has obviously not worked. R.J. Bishop's car just appears to be way too strong. But we'll have to see if Cam Wright Jr. tries it again. We're going to be about 20 laps away from that final round of green flag pit stops. Most drivers pitted between laps 45 to 47. A couple were able to stretch it to lap 48. So we're looking around lap 90 for that final pit stop, somewhere in the vicinity of 30 laps to go. Going to be the money stop. And you saw how conservative drivers were getting onto pit lane. A couple of drivers tried to maybe find the edge, get a little aggressive, getting into that commitment line, but for the most part, it seemed like everybody was really gingerly getting themselves down off the banking onto the apron, making that really hard left-hand turn onto pit lane. You see that orange box right there? That's a big issue with this pit road as well, because if you carry too much speed and you end up having any portion of your car on top of or to the outside, the right side of that commitment box, that's technically a commitment cone. It's just not a 3-dimensional commitment cone. If you hit that or go over it, guess what? You're getting a penalty. So you have to get the car woed down to make sure that your entire machine is on the left side of that orange box. Well, one thing we haven't talked about at all today, and we may have to start considering it, is lap traffic. R.J. Bishop is setting a blistering pace, and you can see just up ahead of him there, that is Nathan Fogler, who is currently the last driver on the lead lap. If R.J. Bishop continues to run the lap times that he is going to encounter that traffic. And I don't know if necessarily, with him not having the benefit of clean air any longer, if that would be an opportunity for drivers like Cam Wright Jr. and Autumn Brooks and David Dixon and Colin Grace to have enough time to close back up on him and have a shot for this race lead. Another point in note is we know that these drivers can go about a maximum of 45 laps on fuel. If you're RJ Bishop and you're getting tired of the traffic, the window is open right here, right now, to be able to make it the rest of the way. So if you wanted to, you could come to pit road and top off the fuel tank here, but I have a feeling that most drivers are going to stretch it to that lap 90 mark. Well, one thing that I always say during these playoffs is do not rely on my mathematics, because I can do my best in trying to eyeball who I think is in, who I think is out, and more often than not, I'm usually incorrect. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Do not take my word as gospel until you see the calculated points at the end of the race. But just kind of looking at the situation right now, Roberto Crown Jr. was that cut line driver coming into this race. He is currently back in the 24th position. Skylar Taylor, who came into this race 1 point behind him, is back in 28th. So I don't think anything has changed between those two drivers for that 7th in the standings cut line. For Kyle Langland, however, he has been able to make his way up into the top 10. He is currently in 8th. Langland came into this race a total of 21 points below Roberto Crown Jr. Right now, with where he's running in relation to Roberto Crown Jr., that is 15 points that he is made up. He needs to pick up another 6 positions in order to be able to at least tie. Right now, that would mean Langland would have to finish in 2nd with where Roberto Crown Jr. is currently running. If Roberto Crown Jr. loses more spots, that is going to continue to benefit the driver of the 26. Jordan Anderson is right now running in 13th place, and he was a lot further back from the cut line. He was a total of 23 points back. So right now, Jordan Anderson would be eliminated from this round of the playoffs if he continues to run where he is. As I said, he still is pretty much in a must-win situation, and he's currently outside of the top 10. Brody Kupski here with a look on Colin Grace. This would be for the 5th position, as we're about 10 laps away from our final cycle of pit stops, which, at least for the moment, appear like they may occur under green. Kupski will pick up the spot there on Colin Grace, and now he'll try and see if he can reel in David Dixon. Brody might have been one of the last drivers to hit pit lane there. He was, actually. He and Aubrey Powell were some of the last drivers to hit pit lane on that cycle of pit stops, so he is now on the latter half of this run, having a little bit more grip, a little bit more speed than some of the other drivers around him. That's why we see him being able to pick up spots late. Well, that gap from 1st to 2nd, it continues to grow. RJ Bishop now 6.6 seconds. I'll make it now 6.5 seconds, as he had a little time getting around Nathan Fogler, putting him a lap down. Is the gap 6.5 seconds from RJ Bishop back to Cam Wright Jr. RJ is firmly in control of this race, so I guarantee you there are a couple of things he does not want to see, but top of that list, he does not want to see a caution. Caution comes out, everybody can come down pit road, make some adjustments, and they are right back on his bumper. Got about a straightaway before he encounters the next driver on the tail end lead lap, which right now is Skylar Taylor. So for Skylar, running in the 29th position in that 29 car, not looking good for our Daytona winner to advance into the next round of this postseason. Currently, right now, the battle for the final transfer spot is going to be between Roberto Crown Jr. and Kyle Langland, it seems. Taylor, currently with where he's running, would be eliminated. Jordan Anderson as well. It's the 26 versus the 18. And right now, the gap between those two with where they're currently running would be 17 points. It was 21 points, the difference between the two of them coming into this race. So 4 more positions needed if you are Kyle Langland. Either 4 positions gained or 4 positions lost for Roberto Crown Jr. This final pit stop could be where it takes place. Let's go back up and see. So Roberto Crown Jr. is back here. So he's got some cars around him that he could gain spots, which is bad news if you're Kyle Langland. Let's see what opportunity Langland has for further advancement up through the field. And, well, there's your answer. He's kind of on an island of his own. A long gap ahead, a bit of a gap behind there to Galligan and Mason. This is the worst scenario if you're Kyle Langland right now. Langland did actually just pick up a spot, though, on Ralph Mason, so he moved up to 7th. Roberto Crown Jr. has dropped back to 27th. That's 20 points difference. So right now, if my scoring is correct, Roberto Crown Jr. would have 1 point on Kyle Langland for the final transfer spot. If Langland can find one more position here on this cycle of green flag pit stops, and Brody Kupski, I'm just saying, I know that 6, well now make it 7 seconds is a lot of ground to make up here with less than 40 to go, but Brody Kupski may have the fastest car on the racetrack right now. He's gotten around David Dixon. He's now going to look to the inside of Dixon's teammate Cam Wright Jr. He has made up a lot of spots here on the latter half of this run. And should he have had maybe a little bit more time, I'm not certain he wouldn't have had a car to maybe get up there and maybe take this race lead away from RJ Bishop. But 7 seconds and growing is a lot to ask there, as couldn't complete the pass on Cam Wright Jr. But you can certainly bet that Dover will probably be back on the schedule next season. There's a lot of Lites drivers. We don't know if they're returned or not. A lot of Lites drivers are trying to graduate up into the Cup Series here in preparation for Season 9. But David Dixon's going to have some very good numbers here at this racetrack if he continues to run inside of the top 5. Of course, we mentioned 1 season ago he went to victory lane here. And he's been up in the top 5 pretty much the entirety of this race as well, trying to hold off Colin Grace in what is a battle for 4th. Got to be close to those pit stops here. Lap 90 was just put up on the board. Remember, Cam Wright Jr. was one of the first ones onto pit road during the first cycle of green flag pit stop, so I would expect to maybe see him be one of the first onto pit road here. If you're RJ Bishop and you've got this big a lead, do you maybe preempt everybody else from trying the undercut and come to pit road sooner than them all? Nope, looks like Cam Wright Jr. is going to be the first one on to pit road here. Autumn Brooks going to follow him right down. Remember, they were some of the first ones that came to pit road. Looks like Cody Majorek and his teammate Jordan Anderson in as well. Skylar Taylor coming in, and there's RJ Bishop, who was closing in on Skylar to put him a lap down. RJ pulling into his stall. He's got that very first pit stall here at the entry of pit road. So all he has to concentrate on now is getting off of pit road safely. There was Kyle Langland going on by. Jackson Haywood, Cole Coybe coming into pit road this time. Eli Bright dives in. His teammate Sarah Fogelman with a late move, also coming to pit road. Nathan Fogler, who's on the tail end of the lead lap, now goes a lap down as Brody Kupski will move on by. Brody now the new race leader. We'll probably see him run long again. He did on the first cycle. He has gotten some clean air here now as Cam Wright Jr. was on pit road. Matter of fact, that 95 is going to come back out in front of him here on the racetrack. I believe David Dixon's coming in. Colin Grace going to roll the dice, stay out a little bit longer in the 27 car. Our winner from Road America already locked into the next round of the playoffs. Hey, why not? Why not gamble? We kind of saw Reggie Fogelman do that back last week at the elimination race at Nashville Superspeedway. He had built up enough of a points cushion that there was no way he was not advancing to the next round. He tried something. He tried to gamble on fuel strategy. It didn't pay off, but hey, you get that little bit of a luxury when you end up either winning or finding good consistency in the first couple races of an elimination round, as Brody Kupski and Colin Grace have both hit pit road now. This should potentially cycle the pit stops around. Sean Galligan just hit pit road as well. I believe those were the last 3 we were waiting on. And RJ Bishop should cycle back to the race lead. And we're going to have a couple more drivers added to the lap down list, it looks like, once this is concluded. I just saw our pole sitter Sarah Fogelman was back behind him. Nathan Stapleton, Daniel Voiles coming off pit road behind the 16. That's Michael Turner right there, just coming out ahead of RJ Bishop. So to have quite a number of lap down machines. Look who's just up ahead of R.J. Bishop. That's Eli Bright in the 20 car. And Roberto Crown Jr. is just now leaving pit road, and Bishop's going to put him a lap down. Skylar Taylor actually is going to bypass the 18. That's going to be important for Skylar Taylor, as he's trying to get that 7th and final transfer spot into the next round of the postseason. But we're going to have to check here once everything cycles of where the 26 of Langland is. Looks like Skylar Taylor is cycling to 23rd. Roberto Crown Jr. cycling to 27th. So now it would be the benchmark, I think, would be the Costco Mazda of Skylar Taylor. And what was the gap from Taylor to Langland? It was 20 points. So right now running in 23rd, that means Langland would have to cycle to at least 3rd position. And right now scoring has him in 4th. That is the good news. What's the bad news? Well, 3rd place is a long ways away. Autumn Brooks about halfway down the back straightaway as Langland exits out of turn 2. Plus Langland's got David Dixon on his back bumper along with Brody Kupski, so that's a couple of spots that he could lose. Cam Wright Jr. is in 2nd place, but now he's dealing with a driver that he's had to deal with all season long. These two were back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for the regular season championship. And now Cam Wright Jr. will get to the inside of Roberto Crown Jr. Roberto's in 27th. Langland is in 4th, so Langland would be ahead of Roberto Crown Jr. It is right now the 29 versus the 26. So for Kyle Langland, are they tied right now? Yeah, right now they're tied because Skylar Taylor lost a spot. And if he loses another spot here to Nathan Stapleton, guess what? Langland is in 7th in the playoff standings, and Skylar Taylor would be 1 point back. This is a crucial battle right now. It's for the 26th position, however. And if you're Langland, you have to hold on to 4th. If David Dixon gets by you, if Brody Kupski gets by you, guess what? Then you're the one below the cut line. Jordan Anderson, 10th position. Doesn't look like that's going to be enough for him to advance. We know now that unless something drastically changes, he will be eliminated from this round of 10. Jury is still out on Kyle Langland, and right now with where both Langland and Skylar Taylor are running, I believe Roberto Crown Jr., our regular season champion, is in line to be eliminated. This is a great scenario for Langland because they're going to be stacked up battling for the 5th position. I guess the bad news, though, for him is that Brody Kupski is the driver now that's leading this group of 4, and he's got the freshest tires of just about anybody in the field, as Colin Grace now looks to the inside. If you're Kyle Langland, you are hoping and praying that nobody passes you, and you're hoping more drivers pass the 29 of Skylar Taylor. Let's go back to him. Looks like he's still been able to hold off Nathan Stapleton. Here comes Cam Wright Jr. moving on by, having to deal with the traffic. I can state, though, that he has closed up the gap on R.J. Bishop. It was, what, about 7 seconds before the pit stop cycles began? It's been closed down to less than 2.5. So this race is not over for the win. R.J. Bishop has had a lot of difficulty here with traffic after he went out on his outlap, as now Daniel Voiles will work his way to the inside, and Cam Wright Jr., he is visibly closing. Nathan Stapleton just completed the pass around Skylar Taylor. He just moved Taylor back to 26th. And Langland is in 4th. That is 24 points gained right there for Langland on Taylor. That puts him 4 points to the good ahead of the 29. And Bishop is still having difficulty here with lap traffic. This race is not over with less than 15 to go. It's all about who's got the tires here in the closing stages and who's got the clean racetrack as well. Cam Wright Jr., he's had relatively clean racetrack. He's encountered traffic, but he's also been able to put them in the rearview mirror pretty quickly. He's running about a tenth to a tenth and a half faster every lap than RJ Bishop. The gap has been closed down to less than 2 seconds. For RJ Bishop, it's a checkered flag. For Cam Wright Jr., it's not only a series-leading third win on the season, but it's also momentum going into the next round of the playoffs. Bishop still having difficulty here with Daniel Voiles. A couple of Fords up ahead of him here, allowing a Chevrolet to close up in this battle for the win. Bishop is going to lead the most laps here this afternoon, 67 laps so far, and looking to continue to add to that total. As looks like Daniel Voiles is going to get away a bit. He'll start battling with Michael Turner. That is for position, 23rd place on the line between these two. But now you can see both the top two in the same camera shot, and before the pit stops, top two were not even in the same zip code. Autumn Brooks a distant third. She is about 7 seconds behind the race leader. And Langland has lost a spot to Brody Kupski on those fresher tires. He's actually lost a few spots. Chris Dallerton, Colin Grace, and David Dixon have all gone by him. So move Langland back to 8th. Where does that put him in relation now to Skylar Taylor? Taylor is 26th. That's 18 positions difference. Taylor now would be up by 2 points on Langland. Langland needs those spots back, and he's starting to fall back into the clutches of others there in the form of Ralph Mason and Jordan Anderson. That is the worst case scenario if you're the driver of the 26. There is Skylar Taylor. He's currently now back to 28th. So they would be tied right now for the final playoff spot. Bear in mind, though, Roberto Crown Jr., if he can get up here and bypass the 29, guess what? He leapfrogs both of them. Puts Langland and Skylar Taylor 1 position behind him. So this is an important battle, even though it's for 28th. Battle for the lead is closed up. We've got a lot of good battles here in the closing stages. The battle for 28th place just as important, if not more so, than the battle for the lead, potentially the win here. Going to be 6 to go this next time by, and Cam Wright Jr. is there. He got the season kicked off early on with a victory at North Wilkesboro. He then went to victory lane at Darlington. What do those two racetracks have in common? They are abrasive on the tires. And Cam Wright Jr. at another racetrack that is equally as abrasive on these Goodyear Eagles now looks to the inside of RJ Bishop here at Dover. And he will clear for the top position with 5.5 to go. Cam Wright Jr. trying to make it 2 out of the 3 playoff races where a playoff driver goes to victory lane, and now he starts opening up the gap. RJ just used up his tires too much. And what makes this even more impressive is, remember, Cam Wright Jr. was one of the first drivers on pit road on both cycles of the pit stops. So he would have had the oldest tires on this run. He saved them to perfection. Let's find that battle again for 28th. Where are Taylor and Crown Jr.? There they are. Still no advancement here for Roberto Crown Jr. He's there on the back bumper of Skylar Taylor. Kyle Langland's fallen back to 8th where he still stays. Bit of a gap back to Ralph Mason and Jordan Anderson still. So he's still in a safe spot. But whatever happens here is going to be crucial for him. There's Langland. He's got him stacked up behind him there with Anderson and Mason. He's got to keep them in the rearview mirror right now. Currently, he and Skylar Taylor are tied for the final transfer spot, 7th in the standings. Roberto Crown Jr. could be the difference maker here, Coming to 3 to go. Craig Batson right there as well. If he gets by Roberto Crown Jr. and Skylar Taylor, that would be just the buffer that Kyle Langland would need. Here's Roberto Crown Jr. taking a peek. Not going to be able to get there here in 3. But he is there. White flag in the air for Cam Wright Jr. 4-5 car licks in hand, back to RJ Bishop. He'll pick up his 3rd win on the season. He was already locked in on points, but he will win his way into the next round of the playoffs. Cam Wright Jr. wins at the Monster Mile. And let's watch for the 29 and the 18. Here they come, and it's going to be Skylar Taylor over Roberto Crown Jr. Langland is going to just barely hold off Ralph Mason. I believe that we have a tie for 7th. I'm not certain, but I believe we do. We're going to have to do some number crunching here, but I believe that Roberto Crown Jr. may be out by 1 point behind a tie of Taylor and Langland for the 7th and final transfer spot. And if that is the case, guess what? It'll be a first here. I mean, this is the first time I've even implemented the playoffs here in the late series, but it'll be a first where we end up having 8 drivers move on instead of what was originally supposed to be 7. Waiting for the standings to be official, which I believe they now are. Let's try and figure this out. Okay, let's at least start first with drivers that we know are advancing. We knew Colin Grace out of the gate was going to be advancing into the next round, finishes 5th. Great momentum for Colin Grace here in this first round of the playoffs. Cam Wright Jr. winning his way in here now with his 3rd win on the season. Tremendous first round for him as well. Was 3rd in the overall playoff standings coming into this one. Aubrey Powell was 2nd in points. And Aubrey's going to bring it home in the 14th position. That should easily be enough. Aubrey will be moving on. Juan Garcia, where did he finish? 26th. But he came in with enough of a buffer. Back to that, 23 points. Back to that cut line. So he's going to give a lot of those points back, but he should be safe to advance. Cody Majoric going to finish this race in 17th. He was it 11 points to the good above the cut line? He was already ahead of drivers like Skylar Taylor and Roberto Crown Jr., so I don't think he was in much jeopardy of being eliminated. Not the best of runs here today for him, despite leading 32 laps in the early going, but I think he was able to do enough in the first 2 playoff races to be able to advance here nonetheless. And then Eli Bright is going to finish in 23rd. Eli was a total of 7 points ahead of the cut line. Again, the good news for him was he finished ahead of Roberto Crown Jr., he finished ahead of Skylar Taylor, so he should be safe. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. So for Skylar Taylor to finish ahead of Roberto Crown Jr., wait, there's no way. Do we have a 3-way tie for 7th? I just looked at this. So for Skylar Taylor to be ahead of Roberto Crown Jr. for the final 7th transfer spot, he would have needed to finish 2 positions ahead. He was 1 point back from Roberto Crown Jr. coming into this race. Let's bear in mind, in talking about Langland, Taylor, and Crown Jr., none of them led laps, so there's no bonus points that are going to come into play. It is all based off of finishing positions alone. Taylor finishes 1 spot ahead of Roberto Crown Jr. That ties the 2 of them up right there. Kyle Langland came into this race 21 points behind Roberto Crown Jr., 20 points behind Skylar Taylor. He finishes in 8th. Roberto Crown Jr. finishes 29th. That is 21 points difference. That ties him with Roberto Crown Jr. He finishes 8th. Skylar Taylor finishes 28th. That is 20 points difference. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a 3-way tie. We've never seen that before. We have never seen that before. And that means that we had 10 drivers coming into this first round of the playoffs. We were guaranteed that 7 were going to move on. There's going to be only 1 driver eliminated from this first round. And that's Jordan Anderson, who was pretty much in a must-win situation coming into this one. Because there is a 3-way tie for the final transfer position, Roberto Crown Jr., Skylar Taylor, Kyle Langland, they're all moving on. This was supposed to be a round of 7. It's going to be a round of 9. You can't script this. This is crazy. There are going to be 9 drivers moving on to the second round, which means 5 drivers are getting eliminated in the next 3 races when we establish our final 4. The first season we decided to implement a playoff system here in the Lite series, and this takes place. This is historic. I don't think this has ever happened in any of the series I've done. You could go back through the annals of NNSCRA offline leagues, and I don't think this has ever happened in a playoff system where 3 drivers have managed to tie in an elimination race for the final transfer spot. That's nuts. Again, I'm speculating here. I believe the math checks out. And you guys will see it when it's all calculated. But I don't think that I'm building up a storyline here that is incorrect. I think this is actually going to be a thing. But nonetheless, we take you down here through some of your other drivers. Some great runs here. RJ Bishop led the most laps here today, 73 laps. Every time he comes down here to the Lite Series, he shows up. He's had a lot of good success down here in that all-star car. Autumn Brooks, another great run there. We ended up talking about that, would this be a racetrack where track position was going to be important? Well, Sarah Fogelman started on the pole. She finished all the way back in the 20th position. Autumn Brooks started on the outside of the front row and finished in 3rd. So I would say yes and no, depending on circumstances in terms of Dover and track position. Brody Kupski, I think, had one of the fastest cars on the long run. Obviously, had the long run car because he had the fresher tires, being one of the later pitters on pit road on both the pit stop cycles. But I think he had a really strong car here tonight, finishes in 4th. And Colin Grace, I think that you really need to keep an eye on this 27 here in this upcoming second round, because if you look at the numbers here just in this first round alone, not just including the victory at Road America, but a great run last week at Nashville Super Speedway, a top 5 run here again at Dover. Really consistent first round. So the consistency is there along with the success of a checkered flag. I think Colin Grace could be a favorite going into the second round of the playoffs. Chris Dollerton, a great run there for him in 6th. David Dixon, his numbers at Dover going to look really good. A win last season, 7th place here. Kyle Langland, that final pit stop. That final pit stop was the difference maker, I think, for the 26. He was, I think, 11th before the pit stops began. Leapfrogged a few drivers to finish in 8th. And now is going to go playoff racing in the next round. Ralph Mason, Sean Galligan, good runs for at least 3 of the 4 Garage 55 cars here today, as Mason gets 9th, Galligan just outside the top 10 in 11th. Jordan Anderson did everything he could. He didn't have the best of cars here today, but he kind of was able to make something out of nothing. Finished 10th position, but he just dug himself too deep a hole, especially after Nashville Super Speedway. So, it was in a borderline must-win situation. Yes, a lot of drivers around him had some struggles here today, but just too big of a gap for him to be able to close up. So at least a good showing for him here, as unfortunately he's going to be, if the scenario is the way it is, the only driver that's getting eliminated here in this first round. And then we obviously documented the rest of the playoff drivers where they ended up all finishing in this one. We had 24 drivers finish on the lead lap. All 30 drivers reached the conclusion, but those green flag pit stops, especially the second round, end up having quite a number of drivers finish off of the lead lap. But, wow. What more can you say? Wow. 3-way tie at the conclusion of this one for the final transfer spot. Because of that, what was supposed to be the round of 7 in the second round of the playoffs is now going to be the round of 9. But Colin Grace, Cam Ray Jr., they win during this first round. Could they be some of the favorites here in the upcoming second round, which will be comprised of Arizona Speedway, Daytona International Speedway? You're looking for a wild card race. That's going to be one. And Rockingham Speedway that will eventually set the table for our final 4 to compete for this championship at Michigan. 9 drivers move on. Only 4 will be moving on to the final round, so 5 drivers will get eliminated. What an interesting scenario we've got going into our next race, which of course will be in 2 weeks' time, as next week the Lights drivers will be off. Cup drivers stand alone at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll see the Lights drivers in 2 weeks when we eventually are at the Arizona Speedway. We've still got one more race to run here from Dover, though, is tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be the Cup Series drivers here from this Concrete Mile racetrack. Hope you guys will join us for that. If the strategy and everything we saw here on the light side is anything to go by, it should be a good one. We've already had the elimination race. Now 12 drivers begin their road in this next round of the Cup Series postseason. But until then, or the next time that we see you here, thank you all for tuning in to this afternoon's race from Dover. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and become a part of the crew today. We showed your full figure results. You're now looking at the point standings going into our next race in a couple of weeks' time at Arizona. Until then, we will see you guys next time here as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of NNSCRA TV, offline racing at its best.
The following has been a presentation of NNSCRA TV for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the consent of the NNSCRA is prohibited. NNSCRA would like to thank all of our loyal fans, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.